In this section, we want to talk about linear equations, while emphasizing that this is really intended to be a review of concepts that you've seen in previous courses, but it's an opportunity for us to re-familiarize ourselves with some basic concepts related to graphing equations. First, we want to start by just graphing points on a coordinate plane, and even before we get to that, we want to talk about just the structure of our coordinate plane. It consists of two axes, the horizontal axis, which is typically referred to as the x-axis, and the vertical axis, which is the y-axis. Those two axes divide our coordinate plane into four quadrants. We start with the upper right-hand corner as quadrant 1, and then we move in a counterclockwise order so that the upper left-hand quadrant is quadrant 2, the lower left-hand quadrant is quadrant 3, and the lower right-hand quadrant is quadrant 4. And each quadrant has a specific relationship to the value of the variables for x and y. When we look at quadrant 1, we can see that any point contained in this quadrant would have an x value that was greater than 0 and a y value that's greater than 0. As we move into quadrant 2, we pass to the left of the y-axis. Our y values would still be positive, but our x values become negative. In quadrant 3, now we dip below the x-axis. Our x values are negative, and now our y values are becoming negative. In quadrant 4, our y values are still negative, but we've transitioned back to the right-hand side of the x-axis, meaning the right-hand side of the y-axis, meaning our x values are positive again. So depending on which quadrant we're in, x and y will either take on positive or negative values. Or, of course, they could take on a value of 0, which happens in one case at the point right where those two axes meet, and this is the point 0, 0, referred to as the origin. Now, specifically what we're going to do in this question is plot the points 0, 3, 10, 0, 1, 10, and negative 7, negative 8. We'll label these points A, B, C, and D so that we can refer to those a little bit more quickly. And remind ourselves that every coordinate pair, which is represented as an open parenthesis, x, comma, y, close parenthesis, has an x coordinate and a y coordinate. So to plot 0, 3, we would start at the origin and move 0 units in the x direction and then up 3 units in the y direction to find our point A. To find point B, we would start at the origin and move 10 units to the right and 0 units up or down to find our point B. For C, we would move back to the origin, move 1 unit to the right and 10 units up. And to get point D, we would start at the origin and move 7 units to the left and 8 units down. In this case, we're not looking at a line or a curve passing through these points. We're just really refreshing ourselves on how we plot xy coordinate pairs. But as a little bit of added review, if we were talking about a straight line that passed through points A and B, then our point A would be referred to as the y-intercept, the point where our line hits the y-axis, and point B would be referred to as the x-intercept, the point where our line intersects with the x-axis.